Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Students of the Word. This is session number 113 on First John, but this is an exciting new beginning because we have come in 112 sessions. We have gone all the way through the epistle, and now we're going back and beginning again. But instead of going verse by verse this time, as we've been doing for the last several years, we are instead going to look paragraph by paragraph. I want to go through, as I've been saying, I want to go through and I want to write down some of our meditations, some of the observations that we make. So I am eager to see thoughts and suggestions from folks who are here with me live. But I'm just going to, and now, so keep in mind the kind of the framework of this. What we're doing here, there are kind of two purposes to what we're, there are two purposes to what we're doing here. One is to go back through and just remeditate, right? Like I've been saying that this is obviously how John is supposed to go, that he is not, John has no intention. In fact, if anything, I think that John has an active intention that you don't get it the first time. He wants you to go back and reread it. He wants you to go back and think about it again. And you'll remember that my sort of core argument last week about paragraph 19 is that he's basically giving us material to go back with. Now let's go back and reread the epistle, and this time let's think about idols, right? Which he hasn't brought up until the very last sentence of the epistle. But now this gives us something else to meditate on. So I am sure that there will be some new things that we will notice, but that's one of the things as we remeditate, to go back through paragraph by paragraph and see what things jump out at us now that we have meditated our way all the way through the epistle once. But the second thing is just to remember things that we talked about ages ago. So doing both of those two things, remembering the things that we saw the last time, seeing what new things we see now, and noting all of those things down. And I'm going to keep this simple. We're not going to be writing, detailed prose and stuff together, but I do want to write together. I do. So I'm just doing some, a bullet list, right? So we're going to start, of course, with paragraph 1. 1 John 1 through 4. And let us look, here's my meditations. I'm all ready for bullet points on paragraph 1. And let's reread it. Now, of course, when we first started, we weren't reading nearly as much of the Greek. So I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of things we're going to notice here that we didn't before. Okay. Ho en ap arches. Now that's really interesting. Because that which was from the beginning, the general shape of that looks almost like this, the syntax that John is so fond of, but there's no present participle, right? There's no action involved here. He's not saying like the being from the beginning one, right? Like it looks a little bit like that instruction. That construction rather. And what makes it look like that to me, what reminds me of that, of John's favorite present participle subject of a sentence construction, is that he is like the main noun. Like he's not giving a main noun, right? Just as instead of saying, a noun, he'll say, the believing in the Son of Jesus, the believing that Jesus is the Son of God one, right? He'll take that action, he'll make that action into the subject, the one who does that thing. So too here, he's also kind of burying the subject, that which was from the beginning. So he's not saying, he could say something like Jesus, who was from the beginning, right? I mean, like he could just lead with a noun, right? But he's not doing that. That whole, the from the beginning thing. Now, en here, this is not the preposition. This is just the verb, right? This is sorry. Where am I going? This is just like ye old to be, right? A me. Yeah. Okay. That's just the verb to be. Okay. So then we're just kind of, it looks like N, John's favorite preposition, but it isn't. It's just the verb to be. And it's aorist? No, it's active. It's imperfect. Whoa. Okay. It's imperfect. Huh. That, so the, because this is just a pronoun. That which was from the beginning. No, hang on. So if this is a pronoun, then this literally says that was from the beginning. Right. Oh, it's the relative pronoun, right? That which. Okay, that's why it's that which. Right. Okay, it's the relative pronoun. Yes, of course. That which was from the beginning. So hol en eparches, hol akekoamen. So this is the hearing one, and we um. Okay, so let's one first observation here. First meditation. He's pushing off the noun slash subject, telling us how we experience it. Like telling just let's just say telling us about it instead of telling us what it is. Okay. So that's the first observation. Second observation. Ake comment. So we've got what's the lemma there? Akuo, that's it. All right. Akuo. Oh, and I've got to do accents now. Okay. Except I spelled that wrong. Akuo. Got it. Okay. Um, hearing. And I'll just say, remember the breathing, the words and breathing later on. Remember we had that like whole paragraph that was about breathing and hearing. And yeah, I'm thinking about paragraph 12 now, the false prophets paragraph, right? There's going to be a lot of hearing things. It's not one of the dominant images of the epistle, but it comes up a good bit. And it's the first thing that involves us. Let me just, right. It's our first role, right? Because the first clause, that which was from the beginning, is about him, right? That's not about us. It's just telling us something about him. That's giving us a fact. This is saying this involves us, that which we have heard, that which we have seen with the eyes of us, that which we have seen with our eyes, that which we have gazed upon, that which we have seen, that which we have gazed upon. So the doubling down on seeing, seen and gazed on. So drawing like to our attention, like we didn't just see him driving by, right? We have looked upon him. We have fixed our attention upon him. Remember, we've had discussions about akuo, the hearing verb, at other places. Like, remember, we were talking about, does this mean hear? Does this mean listen? You know, to what extent does that distinction seem to be present between just hearing something and listening to it? And that's not clear, of course, with akuo itself. But interestingly, concerning vision, it does seem to be making something exactly like that distinction between seeing and gazing upon. So he's not making that distinction from an auditory standpoint, but he is from a visual standpoint. And the hands of us have handled. Right. So we've got our experience four times in three senses. Then I just add one thing about him being from the beginning, and then four things about our experience of him. That's a really interesting way that he begins this. And then once again, I'm going to add this to the first part, to the first point about pushing off the noun and subject. He doubles down on this with the Perry. He's literally talking around what his subject is. Perry, the word of life. Around the word of life. Yeah, I remember uh, this is what way back on the very first class we said word of life stuff. Um, boy, that was a long time ago. But yeah, yeah. Um, it is not clear to me what that prepositional phrase modifies grammatically. That which was from the beginning, that which we have heard, that which we have seen with the eyes of us, that which we have gazed upon, and the hands of us have handled, around the word of life. Is it the verbs? Is that adverbial? Does it modify handled and gazed upon? Oh, one other thing I don't want to skip. He shifted notice the way he does his sequence. He starts with whole, that which, each time. Whole and aparkes. Whole, akekoamen. Whole, herakamen. The whole we have seen with the eyes of us. Whole we have gazed upon, and the hands of us have handled. He doesn't say whole that we have gazed upon, and whole the hands of us have handled. He makes these two verbs, we have gazed upon and handled, he makes that a compound verb. He doesn't introduce a new whole there. And I was thinking something similar. Stephen is wondering if he's leaving out the Oxford hoe. Right. Which, yeah. No, I don't think so. Um, but it does strike me that the two verbs that he is joining here by not interposing another another whole there are the two that are most intimate, gazed upon and handled. That which we have stared at and touched. Whereas the first two verbs about our experience, heard and seen, are potentially, like we hear and see things every day, right? That doesn't mean it mattered much to us, right? That doesn't single it out. But if we've gazed upon something and we've handled it, that speaks to a much more intimate experience. Let me note that here. Yeah, say, um, he joins the two verbs gazed upon and handled. emphasizing the intimate experience. Yeah. Okay. Around the word of life. And the life was made manifest. The the life was ephanerothe. That's an important word in this epistle, as we know. Notice though, that didn't come up nearly as much in the end. Ephanerothe kind of peaked around paragraph like 8-ish. Not 8-ish. 8, actually. Right? So if we remember what I mean? No, no, no. Yes, this one. Um, when he's talking about it has not been made manifest, it has not been a phanerothade as yet what we will be. We know that when he is a when he ephanerothes, we will be like him. So that when he ephanerothes at the beginning of the paragraph, like this paragraph seemed to me the high watermark of ephanerothe in this epistle. And if I I think there were other references to it, but I think it kind of fell off after that. This seems to be as I say, the apex of that. Um, and yeah, Randall, I'm glad you said that. Randall says that the placement of Perry is odd because it doesn't logically go very well with the verbs that precede it. No, no, you can't handle around something. You handle it or you don't. I mean, what are you like, like in a dark room or something, trying to find something and you're handling over like that's a weird image. And you don't gaze upon around something. Like it's almost impossible. So yeah, it's weird. And as I say, it's not even obvious exactly what it modifies. I mean, logically, it would seem to have to be those verbs. I can't see what else it could be. And yet, that doesn't actually make much sense. In other words, he seems to me to be going way out of his way to not say the noun, right? Like really far out of his way to not say the noun, such that the his odd Perry clause here seems to be like an actual circumlocution, not just a um an oddly placed prepositional phrase, but that like the syntax of the sentence is like demanding a noun. But he has made the deliberate choice to say, I know you're wanting a noun here. I'm not going to give you a noun. I'm giving you a prepositional phrase instead. Um, yeah, yeah. No, it's weird. It's weird. It's a very striking move. So why? Why does he do this? Especially, of course, it's the more conspicuous because I mean the noun in question is Jesus here. The noun is the Son of God. And you'd think that wouldn't be something he'd be not just not mentioning. I mean, talk about burying the lead at the beginning of the first paragraph. Like he's not burying the lead. He is like digging a complicated tunnel in which to hide the lead, right? Um, yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Say, thank you. Uh, Thank you, Randall, for that. Randall is pointing out, which I am so wont to forget, that is the significance of the gender of the pronoun, which is neuter here. And Randall was saying you'd almost expect a masculine relative pronoun rather than neuter. I mean, in fact, even that Randall seems to me to push it even further. Right. Because even if we're just looking at the word of life, logos is masculine. Logos is masculine, Zoe is feminine. So, because he's going to go on and talk about the life on its own here, right? So either of those would be sort of candidates potentially to be a noun that he's using or that he's, kind of putting in the place of the one whom he's not naming in this first verse, this first part of the sentence. But neither of those fit. It seems almost like the that the like he's using neuter here again, almost because there isn't any noun there. There's no noun to agree with. Like he's left the noun out so thoroughly. There's nothing to agree this relative pronoun to. Because it is true, Susan, I agree with you that the word of life is sort of the center of it. And that's sort of true, but it's not grammatically at the center of it. It's the object of the preposition. Yeah. Yeah, and Stephen, you were right. Um, if we think about John 1, which, the aparches, as you say, does echo that in the logos, right? Both of those might recall to us John 1. But if we just kind of glance back at that actually for a second, en arche, in the beginning, was hologos, en hologos. In the beginning was the word. And that's grammatically quite simple. I mean, it's like theologically profound, but it's grammatically very simple. And the word was pros ton theon. Oh man. The word was moving towards God. And God en ho logos. And God was the word. So yeah, I mean, obviously what he's saying here is conceptually complex, but it's grammatically simple. He is absolutely not hiding the subject unless you talk about him using the word logos instead of, saying Jesus or something like that, right? Like there's still in that sense, in the sense that he's introducing this sort of new term. Logos was a term that existed. The idea of the word of God was there from the Old Testament. So it's not like he's inventing that concept entirely, but this application of it is unusual, right? And so you could say there's some kind of element of circumlocution involved there. But still, again, nothing like the kinds of things that he's doing at the beginning of First John with the sentence and like that periphrase as we were describing. And the life was made manifest. So this has to be okay. This feels like it has to be the same sentence. Because we haven't had a proper subject and verb yet. And the life was made manifest. There, at least, we have a nominative noun and I was going to say an honest verb. It's not like the other verbs were dishonest. But we have a nominative noun. And the life was made manifest. The life was revealed. And we have seen it. and bear witness. Our first legal term. We'll mark that in just a second. I'm just wrestling with the syntax here. We have seen it and bear witness and proclaim to you the age-ish life. There's our first Zoen ten Ionion, life of the age. We declare to you the life of the age, which was pros ton patera, which was towards the Father, and was revealed, hemin, to us. That which we have seen and have heard, we proclaim also to you. Okay. I remember when we were talking about the English version. Notice especially how in the NASB they put all of verse 2 in dashes to sort of set it aside. And so we concluded from the English, which I still think is a proper reading of the English, that we proclaim is the actual subject and verb of this whole sentence. The sentence which spans the entire first three verses of 1 John 1. But I don't know that that's true in the Greek. Because this kai construction and the life was made manifest, and we have seen it, and bear witness, and proclaim to you the agish life, which was with the Father, and was revealed to us. And then we go back to ho again. That which we have seen and heard, we proclaim also to you. So yeah, you can tell, by the way, like look at the punctuation that the editors, the interlinear translators are adding. That is all this orange punctuation. They're really grasping here. They've added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 semicolons plus a whole bunch of commas. Yeah, now I agree with you, Randall. I I also see where the English translators are coming from. Um, Randall was just saying the whole first verse is relative. Like it's all that which. There's no independent clause in the first verse. There's no just plain old subject and verb in the entire first verse. And although there is, the life was made manifest, and we have seen it. In the second, Randall was saying that the kai, the and that starts the second verse, doesn't seem to resolve that. I agree. I can absolutely see why the translators did this, why they set off verse 2 within the dashes. But do you think I don't know. Verse 1 is just feeling more and more like a riddle to me. More like a riddle. I don't mean it's actually a riddle. But again, he's going so far out of his way to avoid the noun. And there's like, not only is there no reason for him to avoid the noun, there's like lots of good reasons. All grammatical reasons are begging for a noun, right? Like language is begging for a noun. in this first verse. And not only does he not give it, but then there's that whole Perry business, where instead of giving a noun in the place where we're expecting the noun, he gives us instead a prepositional phrase which barely makes sense because it seems to be explicitly a circumlocution. Yes, it does feel like an unresolved chord in music that hangs on and on. Yes, it really does. And so I what I'm wondering is, are we doing wrong to attempt to resolve it? That is what the English translation is doing, and I totally understand why. The English translator's job is to try to make a sentence that makes some kind of sense in English, right? The English translator's goal is not to trip up the reader. But it kind of sounds to me like John is trying to trip up the reader. I think, I mean, again, he's gone so far out of his way to avoid the noun, which is especially odd because the noun is the thing. Like, he's just avoiding any old noun. He could say that Jesus was from the beginning. He could say the Son of God was from the beginning. He could say Jesus the Christos was from the beginning. But he refuses to say that. Like, refuses to say it. Not just doesn't say it, he refuses to say it in this first sentence. Which is why I say it sounds like a riddle. And I think, again, he's not trying, I mean, I was joking about him hiding the lead. He's not trying to hide it, right? He's not trying to prevent us knowing that Jesus was from the beginning. You know, the connection between Jesus and the word of life. He's not trying to conceal that. But he does seem to be wanting us to work for it. And I'm wondering, Randall, if by finding a way to resolve it, we're not undoing his work to some extent, if you see what I mean. Because again, even if we go back to the English, yes, I remember too feeling like it comes as a relief when we get to verse 3 and finally find the subject and verb of the sentence. We proclaim. Phew. Oh, good. And you're right that the beginning of the whole is when we go back to the whole again, are relative pronouns. The that whiching in the beginning of verse 3, it sounds like a continuation of what he was doing in verse 1. But notice that what he does when he does resolve it grammatically, he does not resolve the meaning of it. He still never says what whole is. What we have seen and heard, we proclaim to you. He says, ironically, not in fact proclaiming to us what it was that they saw and heard. And this was the point that we made ages ago. That instead of explaining what whole is, he gives us a hina instead. So that. I'm going to tell you about the proclamation, about saying that we proclaim this to you. Not in order to, and in doing so, I'm not going to tell you what it is we're proclaiming. I am instead going to focus on why we're proclaiming it, on the purpose of proclaiming it, so that you might have fellowship with us. And the fellowship of us is with the Father and with the Son of Him, Jesus Christ. Oh, we end the sentence at the end of verse 3 with Jesus Christ. Jesu Christu, at last. So this is finally, I think, the subject that he's been pushing back and pushing back. But he doesn't say it's what we're proclaiming, right? And these things we write, that our joy might be complete. Tauta. So what's tauta? We write these things. We write this. Doesn't actually say things. And we write this. That's plural though, right? We write these. We write these that the joy, like, what do you write? The proclamation? Yeah. You're right, Randall, exactly. When we finally get around to the Son of God, Jesus Christ, it's the object of a different preposition. Our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ. Which, again, only indirectly could we perhaps conclude. No, like that doesn't even state that that's what we're proclaiming in verse 3. Or that that's what was from the beginning and what we've heard and seen with our eyes and gazed upon and our hands have handled. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to say, like, wrestling with the syntax. John's stubborn avoidance of what it is we have seen, heard, gazed upon, and handled, and even what it is we proclaim. Yeah, Randall, I agree. The tauta at the end, the we have written these things, seems to echo the ho, the that which. It's like, yeah, so like we have seen and heard and handled something. And whatever that was, that's what I'm writing to you about. Yeah. Yeah. Um, and I'm just gonna it seems like a riddle. So what are we being asked to do while reading this? See what I mean? Like he's leaving us work to do. He refuses just to lay it all out. He's just absolutely. We know that John doesn't speak very clearly all the time, but this is low end, right? I mean, I don't think there are too many sentences in all of First John that are harder to parse and follow than the first one. And I don't think that's an accident. And so, if it's not an accident, he's leaving us that work to do. he could, so like, think of John 1 again. In John 1, his syntax is simple. And what he keeps doing is just taking the two things, God and the Word, and he keeps putting them next to each other and using really simple constructions. He just challenges our own thinking as we think through the relationship. The beginning was with God. Sorry, the Word was with God. The Word was God. Um, so he's giving us something to, like, the work that he's asking us to do in John 1 is to just kind of take this idea and wrestle with it. It's not, again, it's not hard to comprehend his language. It's just, it takes a lot of meditation to wrestle with what we do with those concepts. But here, he's doing a very different thing. It's almost like if verse 1 is a riddle, the prepositional phrase with which he ends, peri tu logo tes zois, concerning the word of life, around the word of life, is like a clue. It sounds like a hint. Like that which was from the beginning, that which we've seen, that which we've heard, that which we've gazed on with our eyes, that which we've handled with our hands. And then in the place where you think I'm just going to give you the noun and spell out what I'm talking about, he instead just gives you a hint. It's around the word of life. Oh, do you need more hint? Okay. Well, the life was made manifest. The life was revealed, and we've seen it. Like, and we saw it, and we bear witness, and we proclaim. The life, the life of the age. So the life of the age was made manifest, and we've seen it, bear witness, and proclaim it. And by you need more. The life of the age was also with the Father and was revealed to us. Like I already said before, I'm gonna repeat that hint because that's an important one. So Susan and Stephen are talking about him laying out his authority, that he has personal concrete experience of what he has to say. I do think there's an element of that. But um but it's an awful strange way to go about it. If he has personal concrete experience of Jesus, why are you not saying Jesus? Right? I mean, wouldn't you kind of want to smack somebody who talked like that? You know, it's like if someone is saying like of a certain someone, but I won't say whom, but I know this person really, really well, and I've seen them and know them. Like, are you establishing your authority? Yes, but no. You're leading people to doubt it, I think, if you're just hiding the verb. Again, I don't mean he's really leading people to that. I don't mean it's undermining his authority. I think it's a bizarre way to go about establishing it if you're not going to mention it. I mean, if I were setting out to establish my authority, if I were John and going out to establish my authority, I'd lead with the noun, right? I'd be like, Jesus Christ, the Son of God. You know, the one who is from the beginning, the one that I have heard, that I have seen, that I have gazed upon, that I've handled with my hands. Who's also the word of life? Yeah, him. That's the one I'm talking about. Because all of his authority, like authority about what? Do you see what I mean? Like, how can you establish your authority if you're not even explaining what you're establishing your authority about? Stephen wants to know if we have any examples of first century opening arguments in a court setting. It is interesting, Stephen, given the forensic emphasis later on and the hint with bearing witness, which is forensic, meaning court of law, right? Um, did first century opening speeches tend to sound like this? Was there some kind of convention? I mean, like, would a would a prosecuting attorney do the same thing? Like, say it was a murder case, right? Was there some kind of convention that you don't like mention murder explicitly, right? Like, you know, I don't know. That thing that happened, right? That horrible event, which has impacted our community so profoundly, and, whatever. And you just talk around and around and around it forever until you finally drop it, except John never really does drop it, except in a totally, uh, like he finally says the noun, but he doesn't say it in a way which explicitly connects it with any of these relative pronouns or with his subject and verb, like that is what is being proclaimed. So, I mean, I can kind of imagine that it might be sort of like that. There might be some kind of speechifying convention that he's following here. And that his audience might recognize this as an adaptation of like the kind of circumlocution that would tend to happen at the front end of an argument. It's an interesting theory. Um, See, but Susan, you're saying like, but that's the whole question. Like, is the word of life real and physical? Yeah. Do you feel like John has some kind of incentive to leave that a dubious question? I mean, of course, he's going to get around to talking about this in paragraph 12, and he's going to say some really firm things about this. And he's going to be hinting at it in paragraph 7 also. Like, given that that did seem to be a controversial point, that would seem to be a very, very good reason not to mess around with this. I mean, like, why would you leave any space to doubt if that were the issue? And again, like, you can say, well, he's not leaving any reason to doubt. Like, he's saying that we've handled it with our hands, so it's physical. But handled what? Like, so why not say it? Why not say him? If his point was to lead with like something to do with the question of is Jesus physical? Right. Yeah, no, I mean, again, I'm not saying that he has to get around to that argument faster, Susan. I'm just saying if that argument is a serious issue, which it seems to be, then this approach is a terrible idea. A terrible idea. You don't want to leave, you don't want to, you don't want to leave that in doubt. Surely. Why hide? But again, it leads to the question, like, why conceal that you're talking about Jesus? Why bury the lead? Why not give the noun? Why do this whole weird thing that he does in verse 1? That's why I'm saying, like, he seems to want us to come up with it. That's the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is when my answer to the question, what are we being asked to do by reading this? My point is he seems to be inviting us to supply the noun, Jesus Christ. he wants us to give it. He's not just telling us. Like again, like John 1, right? God is the Word. The Word is with God. I'm going to put that out there and let you chew on it. So I think that that's what he's doing. This entire first paragraph does not make sense. I mean, like, it literally does not make sense. It's barely even grammatical unless we supply the noun. Think about people who don't know the answer to this question. I mean, if you give this paragraph in Greek, right, not in the English where they're trying to answer the questions to some extent, they're trying to make it clearer. But if you give this in Greek to someone who has never heard of Christianity, doesn't know any of the spoilers, they're just going to be confused. Because he never makes it clear, even when he does, as we were talking about, even when he gets to Jesus Christ at the end of verse 3, there is no obvious indication that that is the missing noun. That either that's what he was seeing, hearing, and handling, or what we were proclaiming. It's never stated. Ever in this paragraph. Like, you have to know that. If you don't know that already, this is not going to make sense. You couldn't figure it out from this paragraph alone. And that is a fascinating opening move. And I think he's going to pick up on this. Yeah, if we don't know the answer already, this is going to make no sense. Yeah, remember, he is going to say he is writing to believers. And remember the command. About believing in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ. Remember, we already know we've gotten to and past the center of this epistle. The center of this epistle is the commandment that we should love one another and that we should believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ. And if we do believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, then we'll get it. Then we'll know what he's talking about. But he makes us work for it. And that is such a striking approach. It makes it clear from the start. He is not here to explain things. He doesn't have to tell us later on that he is not writing to those who don't know, but who do know. He's already making that clear. In paragraph 1, that's perfectly clear. let's go back to the life stuff. If we take out verse 2, we have the entire riddle still totally intact, right? Around the word of life stuff, that which we have seen and heard, we proclaim also to you. We got a verb, but we still haven't solved he still doesn't give away the riddle. Why does he interrupt with verse 2? And the life was made, and the life was revealed, and we have seen it. So verse 2 interruption about the agish life. Double emphasis. What is said at the beginning and end. Notice the symmetry of it. The Zoe ephanerothe. The Zoe was revealed. What's our, this aorist? Yeah. It's aorist and passive. Yes, it was revealed. And then again, it was revealed to us. And the second time he says it is totally unnecessary. That is, he's not saying anything different. That's simply a repetition to establish the pattern, beginning and end. It was revealed. And notice how even the interlinear translates it differently in English. And the life was revealed, which was with the Father and was revealed to us. Double emphasis on ephanerothe. What's the lemma there? Phaneru. I know, phaneroo. Okay, double emphasis on ephanerothe. Revealed. Repeats at beginning and end of the interruption. So we learn, okay, what do we learn about the agish life? Not AIG, agish life. Well, first we learn it was revealed. Presumably by God. But I don't think he says. He implies it by saying it was with the Father and was revealed to us. But he doesn't say that explicitly. Second, we have interacted with it. Seen it, testify it, and proclaim it, right? Yes, proclaim it. Also, it was with God. That's really interesting, Stephen. Stephen says that Jesus spoke in parables specifically to hide his message from those who weren't actually seeking. Could John be similarly hiding his message for those not ready for it? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should probably start with my gospel. Right. Right. Yeah. Uh, at the end of the first paragraph, he's like, if you have literally no idea what I'm talking about right now, you probably shouldn't be reading this. This epistle isn't for you. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's the sense, I think, in which starting with a riddle makes sense. Yeah. It's certainly the effect of it. But anyway, in verse 2, note the parallels to verse 1. That which we have seen, heard, etc. And then the life, which we have seen, testified, and proclaimed. Typing is hard. Okay. Yeah. Um, it's like he's going by doing a list, he's recalling the fact that we've already seen a list, that the first item on the second list is one of the items on the first list, also makes them, but then he goes further. Instead of just stretching out four different kinds of perception and interaction, he just does the first is the experience. We're not just contemplating the experience. We're just you doing the experience in one, and then moving on to what we do with that, how we respond to it. And we respond to it by testifying and proclaiming. Yeah, Randall, I also agree. Randall says it's interesting that he mentions the word of life, but then instead of saying more about the word, he says more about the life. Yes, that is weird. Because life is just the object of the preposition. I mean, so is the word, but of the different but you see what I mean. Like it feels like logo is the primary thing. I agree with you. Concerning the word. Which word? The word of life. And if he had gone on to say, and the word was made manifest, we'd be like, oh, I know just where I am now. This feels like John 1, right? But he doesn't do that. And the life was made manifest. Oh, yeah. Okay. What does that have to do with the word? Yeah. So, yeah. Also, it's part of the riddle. I think, Randall, the way that I'd frame this is what does the word have to do with the life? Sorry, that's really interesting. I see. Yeah. No, I've confused the AI. It does not it's not following that. See, look, the AI is not getting the riddle. So there you go. What does the word have to do with the life? How are these connected? What is the word which he doesn't refer to again in this paragraph and barely at all in this whole epistle? Yeah, so that seems to me to be another aspect of the riddle. Just like it makes it sound like he's going to give us a noun, and then instead of giving us a noun, he gives us a prepositional phrase, which doesn't modify anything. And so too, it sounds even in that prepositional phrase, he gives us a noun, which it sounds like he's going to riff on, but instead he riffs on something else, and he just leaves that word hanging. Word. Anyway, back to verse 2. I would suggest also. Well, right. I'll just say what I was saying before, and then describing what we do. Describing what we do, with that experience. He talks about, oh, he doesn't talk about the life of the Son, actually. He talks about the word of life, then he talks about the life, and then he talks and he says the life of the age. And the structure of this makes it pretty clear that the life that he's talking about there is the life of the agish life. And the life was made manifest, and we have seen and bear witness and testify and proclaim to you the life. Like, so unless these are two different lives, one life is being made manifest and the other is being seen, testified, and proclaimed, which does not really seem to make any sense. He seems to be identifying those. And then he says that this life, which is connected with the word and which was revealed, and we did all this stuff with it. He's saying it's pros ton patera. It's next to the Father. It's hurtling towards the Father. Sorry, all my pros thoughts here. And was revealed. Yeah. Um, right. So then I would say the other thing, though, um, note the connection between revelation, ephanerothe, and proclamation, which is here apangelomen. Uh, apangel. Okay. Herod tells the wise men to report to him. That's this word. And guy who's been healed reports everything. Go and report to John, says Jesus. When John the Baptist's disciples come to him and say, hey, what gives? He says, go and report this to John. His spirit of God will be upon him, and he shall proclaim justice. He will declare justice. He's going to report that. And they went and told. So this is about carrying messages primarily. Rand did report it to his disciples about the resurrection here. Yeah. And then this is the word, take the word to my brethren. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So this is a word that you'd use about like somebody spreading rumors. This is a word that you would like anytime you go and tell people about stuff. So the word proclaim, and the English word proclaim, makes it sound really formal, right? Like if you proclaim something, you're like standing on a high place and shouting something real loud, right? And it seems like that could be consistent with how this word is used, but it's most commonly being used here just like when one person says something to somebody else. That is, very few of these usages are what we would call in English a proclamation. Report is the word that's being used to translate it most of the time. And that seems to fit the usage. I'm looking up in John now. John only uses it twice in the gospel. And one of them is when he's talking about speaking in parables. I will report to you plainly, as opposed to using figurative language. And here's where Mary Magdalene comes to tell the disciples about the resurrection. Yeah. Okay. So I don't love the word proclaimed. I'm going to go with told and tell it. Yeah. It's usually like individual people or sometimes a small group like the disciples. Yeah, you had a certain thing to tell him. Right. What have you to report to me? Interesting. And of course, these are the only two times this verb is used in John. In verse 2 and 3. Fascinating. Oh, by the way, it was with God. I'm going to say presumably from the beginning. So notice there, verse 2 again. Like, why is he interrupting with this verse 2 thing? Again, as I said before, it's like he's giving hints about the riddle. It's a further hint, like click here if you want a hint. It's the hint text. And he embeds a secondary riddle about the agish life. Well, it's something that was revealed, and we have seen it, testified it, and told about it. It was with God and was revealed. Does that help you figure out what I'm talking about? It's the life of the age. Yeah. But anyway, about as far as the connection between Ephenerophe and Apangalomon, um, it's God revealed it to us, and then we are telling others about it. Just, not very clearly yet. Um, right. Verse 2 is like hint text to point to the answer to verse one's riddle. Ho, herokamen, akekeomen, repeating the same stuff. So verse 3, connecting back to the verse 1 riddle. Ho, we have seen and heard. The main verb at last is we tell. We tell to you. Yes, good. Um, Randall is pointing out, so I'm using the word reveal as an English version of Aphanerothe. And it is certainly true. It means reveal in the sense of make clear rather than unhide. Um, that is, it's not apocalypso, right? It is not the Greek word that is translated as revelation in the title of the book there. That means something is covered up and you lift up the cover and ta-da, there it is, right? That's what apocalypso means, as my understanding of the word apocalypso, right? Because to calypso something is to cover it up, right? Um, and yeah, even Homer's playing with that in the Odyssey with calypso, but whatever. Um, Not critical right now. But yes, so revealed in the sense of made manifest, manifested. Yes, made clear. So, Randall, that's really ironic, isn't it? That he's talking about something being made clear while he's very busily not making things clear. Yeah, let's say the doubling of made manifest feels almost like a joke. He is talking of a thing made clear while he is not making it clear. Yeah, yeah. Okay, then there's the surprise pivot in verse 3. Instead of saying what he's telling about, parentheses, at last, he says instead why he is telling about it, telling about that mystery thing. The word hina is the pivot. So that the only thing he explains is what the purpose of the telling is, not what the actual thing told is. Yes. What is the purpose? Why write this stuff? Especially when you are not going to explain anything. And there are a couple answers that he gives, right? Primarily, first, that you, plural, no, that y'all might have fellowship with us. Right. And also with the Father and with Jesus, FYI. That's it. Yeah. This is the final hint. We have fellowship with him, with uh us. We have fellowship with them. We have fellowship with them because they have fellowship with the Father and the Son, who are the answer to the riddle. So if we have this koinonia, koinonia, we know the answer to the riddle. And then second, why write this stuff? So that our joy might be complete. And I think we might think that this is the first example of him doing his Hebrew poetrying thing. That is, the implication is this is a restatement. That is to say, having fellowship with them and thus with God, and with God, equals having complete joy, right? Yeah, I think so. Okay, no problem. Okay, so one thing that's perfectly clear is that this is going to be a long document. As I ended up writing, what, 500 words on paragraph one here today? That's okay. The point is to remember, to make something we can continue to meditate upon, something we can go back to that will help us when we want to revisit First John again in the future and want to not forget all of the things that we have learned. That'll do. This might be a long document, but that's okay. It'll certainly be longer than the epistle. I promise you that. Okay. Well, that was fun. We will continue next time. Next time, we will jump on ahead to paragraph two, walking the light. I can't wait to get back to paragraph two. We've come back to this so many times. It's going to be awesome. All right. Thank you, folks. Thank you for helping me. I'm going to make this document available when we're done with it, but I'll hang on to it for now. All right. Thanks, folks. I will see you guys again soon, and we will continue with paragraph two. Thanks very much. Bye now.